The choice is clear, presented by Gillette Clear Gel. Let me ask you this, Jonathan Johnson, before we get more into Galtier and more Ligue 1. Were PSG right to get rid of Pochettino? Was the choice clear for them, for PSG to get rid of Poch?
I do think that the choice was clear for PSG at the end of the day. Pochettino had a straightforward remit when he came in. That was to have PSG being dominant domestically and also going far in the Champions League. You could argue one season out of two, he did a fairly decent job of that, because the season that he came in, he had PSG beating the likes of Barca, beating the likes of Bayern Munich, and then just going out to Manchester City in the semi-finals. But the second season, his only full season, it was an absolute disaster in the Champions League, dropping out in the way that they did against Real Madrid, and also failing to win everything on the domestic front, because they didn't win the Coupe de France. They got knocked out, funnily enough, by Galtier's Nice. And I think that it was the right decision for PSG to make this change at this moment in time after Kylian Mbappe's contract extension, and change the project and move on without Pochettino, who, let's face it, was never totally committed to this PSG project.
One of the most difficult things for PSG coaching staff, as you can agree, I'm sure, is to deal with the likes of Kylian Mbappe, Neymar, Lionel Messi, Marco Verratti, Marquinhos, just, players of such high caliber, but also bring such high, egos, for better or worse, that they've deserved. They've earned that reputation, of course, some of the best players in the world. And Pochettino has had just like others, an issue in terms of, getting the best out of them in the Champions League. And to your point, often as well, even domestically. One of them, Neymar Jr., who is very close on meeting the record, JJ, of equaling Pele's Brazilian scoring record. Of course, we know what he's done in his career domestically for different clubs as well, but still holding on to see if they can win a Champions League title. What about Neymar Jr., Jonathan Johnson? Should PSG look to offload Neymar Jr.? I know it's easier said than done, but what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Very much so, easier said than done. But also at the same time, I think if a club does come to PSG with serious interest, I think PSG would be wise to listen to it, because Neymar, we know that on his day, Neymar can be a fantastic player. But, let's be brutally honest about it. How many of those days has he really had with PSG? If the best that we're going to see of Neymar with PSG was the way he was playing in that run to the 2020 Champions League final in Portugal, ultimately it wasn't enough for PSG. And you look at the way that Kylian Mbappe has become the talisman of this PSG side the last couple of years. There are players who can put that team on their shoulders, and they can be more reliable than Neymar. And I think really the beginning of this sort of second wave of negativity surrounding Neymar in Paris came after he did that interview late last year, where he suggested that basically the World Cup in Qatar at the end of this year will probably be his last with Brazil, because he alluded to the difficulties of being a top level athlete. I know that got PSG very worried, because it came a couple of months after he'd signed a bumper new contract extension. And basically that relationship has not gotten better. Now, we have been here before, back in 2019, when Nasser Al-Khelaifi was speaking publicly and basically opened the door to Neymar leaving if he didn't want to be there. Neymar, as we know, didn't end up moving. His potential return to Barcelona fell through. He was public enemy number one for a while at Parc des Princes, and then ultimately won the fans over, and it actually produced some of the best form of his career. But, I think it's almost like Neymar needs to be in an extreme position of difficulty to get him, to perform at his best. And the risk of him picking up injuries, as we've seen in his years with PSG, is very high. So I think that PSG would be well advised to consider any interest in Neymar. But the difference between considering interest and an actual solid offer is quite substantial.
Yeah, and obviously the biggest hurdle for him has always been trying to be the main shining light. In Barcelona, he had to share with obviously Lionel Messi and Lucho Suarez. At PSG, Kylian Mbappe and Messi once again, but to his contract and everything will be difficult. Final question here. Is the choice clear for Luis Campos, the new sporting director, about, who else would be, in his blacklist, so to speak? Is there any, we know Kylian Mbappe obviously is fine where he's at. Lionel Messi, of course, has one more year left at least, but is there any other movement that this Luis Campos is thinking about?
Yeah, I think that the choice will be clear in terms of who he wants to move out and also who he wants to bring in. I mean, I think Campos's remit is quite simple coming into this task. He basically has to construct a squad that Christophe Galtier will be able to use. So, of course, they know each other very well. He knows the kind of squad, the kind of tactical variations that Galtier will look to use, and will need to stock the squad accordingly. Now, the thing that really interests me about some of the early targets that Campos has been looking at, and I'm talking about the likes of Vitinha, Porto, Renato Sanchez at Lille, who both Galtier and Campos know very well. They're looking at boosting that midfield. Now, we know that the midfield has been run exclusively through Marco Verratti over the last couple of years, but it's almost like when Verratti isn't there or isn't on form, PSG have no midfield at all. So I think completely reconstructing that area of the team is a logical, starting point for Campos. So I do think that he will have a clear list in his mind or idea of players that he can potentially try to move on, bring in money for, and others that he can look to bring in, at a substantially lower cost than what we're usually used to seeing with PSG.
Well, the choice is clear for PSG. Pochettino is out. What happens next is up to the French giant. That was brought to you by Gillette Clear Gel.